Hi! So this is my journal entry number 1 for the field journal project. It's 7:01 p.m. on September 19th, 2022. It's hot, like genuinely very hot, but there's like a slight breeze because it's 7:01. The sun is starting to set and there are no clouds in the sky. I'm at my grandparents' house on Old US Highway 31 by Lake Chapin. That's where we're at right now. We're on the lake. The area I'm going to be analyzing is 18 feet by 30 feet, like give or take, obviously. There is a lot of vegetation here. The leaves are starting to turn different colors while some others gleam their bright green. Some leaves already have died. The bark on the trees are damaged because of old age. There is also moss growing on the rocks and on the steps that lay in the water. I can't see it because of the discolored water, but I know that there are fish in the water. There is also very big spider webs in many different areas. There are also a lot of rocks emerging from the water. Some do have moss and some don't. All rocks are non-living, however, there are some that are growing moss, as I said. But there are also some that aren't fully in the water, so they aren't growing moss. There is also a lot of dry soil because the water from the lake does not reach it. However, there is also a lot of soil underneath the water, which is obviously very wet. The area I'm observing also has a paddleboard, kayak, a boat, a beach chair, a bucket. I also do like to add that there's a little birdhouse that just brings me so much joy. So yeah, that was a little welcome into the area I'm going to be observing. So entry number 1. It was October 9th at 4:25 p.m. So I first looked at tree number 1 and I thought it was around like 15 feet tall. I measured the diameter and it was around 1 foot. The colors of leaves are green and yellow since the seasons are changing. See, the trunk was beige. The tree is located partly in the water. So I found out this first tree was a maple tree because I took steps 1 through 15. So I went 1, 12, 13, 14, and then 15. This is the maple leaf. Not very environmental friendly that I stole it, but it took me a lot to get down. So tree number 2 is approximately like 30 feet tall. I can't really tell with all of the leaves, however, that's my guess. I couldn't get over to it, but it looked like slightly bigger than the other tree, so I was guessing the diameter was around like 1.5 feet. The colors of the leaves are also green and yellow, and the trunk was light brown. It was a little darker than beige, so I was saying like around light brown. The tree is also by the water, and it is a dogwood tree, and I found out that it's a dogwood tree by doing the same exact steps, but I'm getting the I think it was 15B. This is my dogwood leaf. It's quite gorgeous. Well, I just got down here and it's October 21st and it's 11:02. My first instinct is to be like, there's like nothing here. There aren't any animals that are like completely visible. I know there are fish under the water, so I could count that. While counting the dogwood and maple trees, our third species is the lesser periwinkle. The plant is an invasive species. The periwinkle is an annual cooler regions plant, which means it can live all year long. It just usually doesn't have its purple flower until the spring or the summertime. Since we are about like 20 minutes from Lake Michigan, there are a lot of seagulls. Seagulls usually live by the water because they eat foods like anchovies, candlefish, herrings, sardines, mackerel, blennies, and sculpin. Along with the seagulls, there are other birds that roam around this area a lot. Although I can't really get a good glimpse of the bird, I know a very popular bird here in Southwest Michigan is the European starling. The European starling, like a lot of other birds, eat beetles, grasshoppers, flies, caterpillars, and spiders, snails, and earthworms. Oh my gosh, there's a bunch of them right here. Another species that is in this area is moss. Moss is all along the lake. Usually moss won't grow if there is healthy plants already growing in that area. Usually moss growing in your lawn or garden is often a sign of underlying problems in the soil. Moss forms from spores that are carried by wind currents and moving water. Although there are a lot of different kind of species surrounding our site, this site itself is a lake. So Lake Chapin, although I can't get a picture or video of the fish actually under the water right now, I will insert some images right here. A popular species is the largemouth bass. We have the blue crappie, the bluegill, a smallmouth bass, we have a walleye, and another example is the channel catfish. All of these fish are suited for unsalted waters. I would have to say that my site does have a pretty high amount of biodiversity. Although everything is pretty spaced out, I do think that in my area the leaves and amount of plants kind of overrun it. In my site in particular, I don't necessarily think a lot of fish and birds do like hang out here, although they do come and pass through. A constant would have to be the plants. I mean, the plants can't really move unless they're invasive, and then if that, they're gonna grow around my site. I do not think that any plant in particular really takes over the whole plant community at my site. I think especially now since the tree leaves are falling off, all I can really see is the maple and dogwood leaves, but I think all the plants are pretty evenly spread throughout themselves. Alright, realizing now after I left, there are some other species that I did not point out. There are species like river otters that will go down there and swim, and surrounding that site is a lot of poison ivy, but I didn't get to see it because all of the dogwood and maple tree leaves have fallen on it, so I just wanted to add that in there. We're on entry number 4, and today is November 3rd and it's 4:05 p.m. As you can see, a majority of leaves are dead and laying on the dock, and even on the stairs coming down to the dock. I do notice that some plants haven't even started to brown yet, while others have been dead for a long time. It's much brighter out here. This is because the trees don't have any leaves to block out the sun. Over 3/4, maybe even like 4/5 of the trees have lost their leaves, while plants that stay closer to the ground haven't lost as much. Or I can't really notice because of all the leaves that have fallen from the trees onto the ground. The dock, moss on rocks, and where the trees are planted have stayed constant since the first visit on the site. I've noticed this time around there are less birds than the past times I've been to the site. Usually I'll hear some as I observe, but I haven't heard any this time. The deeper into the winter, I'm sure there will be less and less insects and birds. Earlier this year I noticed a lot of spider webs were present, however there aren't any more. The only insect I actually have seen this time around has been one singular ladybug. So it is November 18th. We're going to talk a little bit about the human impacts on the land. Before people had impacted the land, this was just a hill down to the lake. However, now there are stairs so people can safely get down to the lake, and a dock that allows people to walk atop the lake. There is a dam nearby to help control water. Dams even help store water to generate electricity or supply water for homes and businesses. Most of the plants surrounding the water are native to Michigan. The dogwood and maple trees are especially native to Michigan. The lesser periwinkle plant is an invasive species originally from California. It has traveled across the US along rivers and lakes, so it makes sense that it's next to the lake here. I think animals take advantage of the stairs and the human structures that are at my site. I do not think any animals are being negatively impacted. If I'm being honest, I think the stairs and under the stairs are used as shelters for many animals. The dam, however, releases greenhouse gases that are not good for the air and the people that breathe it. Dams also increase sea levels, waste water, and has destroyed habitats. The best way that we can help decrease the contamination or negative impacts on my site is by picking up after ourselves. The dock here isn't really getting used for anything besides this project currently. However, in the summer I come all the time, bringing snacks, friends, and whatnot. Continuing to pick up after ourselves can help protect the lake and the habitats that are within it. Overall, I have noticed so many changes. Here are just a couple. The snow has melted a little bit due to the sun being out most days. The steps are much slicker than the beginning of the year, and the wood rails are a little damaged due to the constant water damage. The trees are almost completely naked and prepared for more snow, instead of enjoying being down there. It's getting too cold to want to go by any body of water. I'm also noticing less and less of signs of life every time I go down to the dock. The colder water also has definitely drawn a lot away. This project overall has given me a lot of appreciation for the land around me. During this project, I not only got to get out into the environment, but I also got to spend more time with my grandparents and even collect some photos when I was younger and spending time at the site. This one is my cousin and I kayaking with my dog, my grandparents' dog. This is in the same area that we have the new dock, but this is the old dock, and this is my mom and I. And then this last photo is just my sisters and I on a tube on the water. I felt like I was really doing something productive by informing myself on what I need to do to help the environment around me. Learning in the classroom is one thing, however, putting yourself out into the world is so much more effective for people like me. The only flaws I had for this project was that the weather changed, obviously. Each time I had to go to my site, I dreaded it more and more. I guess that is just my fault for picking a site with a tall staircase. Also, with my schedule, I really struggled to find time to get over to my grandparents' house to do the needed assignment. However, I was surprised by the observations I did make throughout the past couple months. For example, for some extra credit on this project, I decided to do some water testing on the lake. I took a sample from the water and we did the testing in class. As an outcome, I found the pH level was 7.5. This is what the levels looked like. The pH level was a 7.5, which means it was pretty neutral and not as acidic. The turbidity was also 15.7 NTU, which basically means that the water isn't too cloudy. Water that is too cloudy can be dangerous for the life that lives at the bottom of the water. The phosphate I tested for came out to 0.5 parts per million. This is a relatively high amount and can cause eutrophication, which can be bad when reaching certain levels. My nitrate levels for this site were 2.5 parts per million. This is a pretty medium level, however, unpolluted waters usually have 1 part per million levels of nitrate. This means the water is a bit polluted by possible surface runoff and other factors. Lastly, we have the fecal coliform results. Due to the results, there is what I didn't expect, levels of E. coli bacteria in the water. On the image right here, you can see that the blue dot is the E. coli bacteria. The other pieces of air are other unknown contaminated bacteria. Ending this year and this project, I wanted to say thank you to Jessica for letting me do this project in my own way, and I really appreciated it. Thank you everyone for watching, even if you weren't in my class. Hope you enjoyed this little video. Bye bye!